Thank you so much for joining us. So tell us a little bit more about this new innovation. Why is it different, and what is significant about it also being designed here in South Africa?
So firstly, thank you so much for having me on the show. The Milkor 380 is essentially the largest UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, to ever be produced on the continent itself. South Africa itself has a large history of drone development or UAV development, both for civilian applications but also military applications, in the spheres of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. The Milkor 380 essentially then prioritizes and showcases South African innovation and African innovation at its finest by having a fully homegrown UAV system built from the ground level up, meaning all of the components inside that aircraft and the subsystems therein is manufactured in South Africa, in Cape Town. And it showcases at a global stage that the African continent and South Africa are among 10 countries in the world that have the capability to manufacture UAVs of this size and for these types of operations.
So when you say of this size, ordinarily, what would be the size, and does size count in terms of capability and capacity?
So in this sense, yes, size does actually matter because endurance matters. In a military operation or in an intelligence environment, typically you would like to fly in the air over a certain target for as long as possible to gather as much information from the ground and relay that back to a commanding station. Or in the sense of a multi-purpose platform, you need to intervene in those situations as well and provide close air support. So in this case, we are commonly familiar with aerial photography drones, like many popular smaller commercial drone sizes. Then we have something in the military industry and civilian industry called tactical, strategic, and national asset UAV sizes. And these are the three different categories considered worldwide, of which I mentioned previously only about 10 countries have the capability to manufacture drones of this size. The Milkor 380, for example, is an enormous plane. It's an 18.6 meter wingspan, 9 meters in length, and a maximum takeoff weight of 1,500 kilogram. It has a 30-hour endurance, meaning once you take off, you can fly for 30 hours continuously, obviously having rotating shifts of personnel and pilots and operators on the ground, handing over command, and it can fly more than 4,000 kilometers.
So you mentioned South Africa being one of 10 countries with such capabilities. Is this a first, just in terms of this particular design that you were just describing to us, or is it just a little bit more competitive than other models?
So this design essentially was based on 21st century technology. A lot of these countries have been developing and using UAVs of this size since the 1980s upwards, and being very popularized in Hollywood films and strike operations in various different war scenarios. The Milkor 380, however, is one of the only entities and only products that has been delivered with a full in-house capability development, meaning hardware design engineers, software engineers, systems engineers, and aeronautical engineers from South Africa residing in one country, all in the private sector essentially, showcasing the capability to develop drones of this size. In a large sense, our company and this product will compete on a global scale against many state-owned entities. And I think an event like the G20, for example, would be a great showcase of empowering countries to make use of these types of equipment by leveraging the skills and efficiencies of a privately owned entity, for example. Thus far, we've had tremendous government support, I must acknowledge, in terms of operational testing, in terms of memorandums of understanding between Arms Corps, the Department of Defense, as well as the South African Air Force as an oversight committee. We've had tremendous support from their side in realizing this idea and concept and making it into a viable product that can be shown as a South African product as well.
And is there a hope of being able to market this to other countries across the Atlantic?
So that's essentially the idea. I think currently we have an order book of these UAVs to be established and integrated into many different government entities across the globe. We have a very competitive market in this sense. But an event like the G20 can further establish ongoing discussions we have with countries and also showcase true African innovation, where these systems have been designed for ease of use and closed, localized support capabilities, not just on the African continent, but abroad as well.
And I actually wanted to ask, I'd imagine that would make us the first on the African continent to be doing this, having such capabilities.
Correct. The South African defense industry, both state-owned and privately owned, have tremendous capabilities, world-leading technologies still in the modern day, many of which are still being implemented and used in modern operations and modern warfare scenarios. So the presiding capability in terms of intellectual skills and highly skilled individuals still reside in the country. And I think projects like this showcase how these skills can be transferred from one generation to the next by enabling job creation and skills development programs such as the Milkor 380 programs, and then retaining critical skills in terms of technological development.
So cost and efficiency, any special features that we should be looking at there?
So typically when you introduce this to a government entity and they have a requirement for either aerial surveillance, intelligence, or surveillance applications, they would compare this against existing equipment, which is usually a manned aircraft, as opposed to an unmanned aerial or remotely operated aircraft. Now, the UAV, for example, in an operational cost efficiency scenario works out to about 20% of the operational cost compared to a manned aircraft. But then, in a sense, it all provides a higher operational efficiency by allowing a 30-hour plus flight endurance, where if you are a pilot, and most people listening that have either pilot friends or operation people that fly planes on a regular basis would know that if you fly a plane for more than 8 hours, even if it's a small plane, is extremely fatiguing, both mentally, physically, and on your eyes especially. So having a capability that you can then alternate shifts and hand over the control of the aircraft remotely and working in a sequence of events, you can fly for 30 hours without fatiguing operators and pilots, and that essentially brings a higher operational success, high mission success.
And then partnerships and opportunities that you are looking forward to or looking for at this upcoming G20 summit, what are they?
So partnerships vary quite a few ranges, so I'll quickly categorize them. On the one end, obviously partnerships in terms of localizing support, so essentially opening up offices in those countries to offer localized support, skills transfer, knowledge transfer to these countries in terms of maintaining, operating, and essentially upgrading and continuing to be able to upgrade their future systems is very vital. It's something we have the luxury of being a private entity to engage in, but also I think on the African continent a very real scenario that many of these UAV systems are urgently required. A lot of the countries share similar defense and security challenges, specifically along maritime surveillance, maritime environments, or border security issues. And it's in a product like this that has the opportunity to then retrain additional skills and transfer some of that knowledge into the country as well. And then secondly, obviously, or with the G20 Summit in mind, there are formidable players when it comes to sensor technologies, either camera sensors, radar technology, electronic warfare, or intelligence gathering technology that is available across the global market and also within the African continent and in South Africa. So I think this platform, although we are a platform provider, we encourage countries to present their technologies and capabilities, and we look forward to engaging with other businesses directly in order to help integrate and get the most out of this product as well in the future. Currently, we have quite a few suppliers on board and partnerships in terms of supplying these sensors that offer a complete, comprehensive solution. So it's those two categories.
And just very quickly, which meeting would you be targeting to showcase this?
So there's a variety of meetings, specifically the South African Export Symposium that took place in October at the Gallagher Estate in Sandton. We were presented there alongside a few other exporters ranging from agriculture to textiles to automotive manufacturing, as well as defense and security equipment. And then looking forward to the G20 Summit itself, in the build-up to it, and also afterwards, there'll be a few business-to-business engagements which we'll participate in. And also the South African Aerospace, Maritime and Defence Association, AMD, has organized quite a few events alongside the DTIC to coordinate and present these technologies, not just from our company, from the whole South African defence industry, to world leaders and decision makers, which is very important.
All right, Daniel, thank you so much for coming to join us. Daniel du Plessis from Milkor, who serves as the communications director, we're speaking about here the new offering. It's an innovation and technology that is made here in South Africa, cutting edge creation, Milkor 380 unmanned aerial vehicle. Brings the time to 8 minutes to 10.